what I say. I told you take care of your family. Stand on your square, be a man. My nigga Low just came home from doing 8. Fucking with the wrong niggas in the wrong place. The one you call ace, that be all up in your face. Next minute, fuck around, help the law build your case. In this rap run, you gotta be a dog in this race. Loyalty or death, man, that's all that it take. I go all the way, you niggas fall by the waist. I see we was never cool, it was all for the... What I say, I told you we wasn't no real niggas, now you gotta deal with them. What I say, I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say, I told you take care of your family, stand on your square, be a man. My nigga Low just came home from doing 8. Fucking with the wrong niggas in the wrong place. The one you call ace, that be all up in your face. Next minute, fuck around, help the law build your case. In this rap run, you gotta be a dog in this race. Loyalty or death, man, that's all that it take. I go all the way, you niggas fall by the waist. I see we was never cool, it was all for the ranks. And furthermore, keys open doors. I can never sit and watch my niggas jump overboard. It's over for you snake niggas and I'm the overlord. I know you niggas to the core. Before you hit record, never give a man a sword if he ain't built for war. I see hate the Lord, I just love the Lord. It motivates me more, keep a nigga going forward. Life come with bullshit and the nigga is all for it. I ain't knocking your hustle, but it's money over horse. I gotta feed them, you gotta feed yours. On this path less chosen, ain't no room for detours. Just on your keep and keep yours. Let be and be more, but be sure you ready, cause shit ain't never finna be the same like it was before. You know what they say about when it rains for sure. The game is pure through my veins and pores. What I say. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman them hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pum 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 pum. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it, gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pum 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 pum. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it, gun wide. Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blick of niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas could murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me shall hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nigga, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written in this discernment. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus. I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the serpents. Keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word. What kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over. I had to sham guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat. They can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster, my nigga, not partial. 38 special. This nigga think he's special. I go ahead to part you. I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Pum 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 pum. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it, gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Pum 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 pum. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it, gun wide.
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
Your question is having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board, but you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore, they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in
Yeah.
Greenwich with 130 white people on.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders to die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, and ain't nobody down but us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and it still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see I look in her eyes. Who got the trouble of soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Baby, I know you heard an apologies in advance. I just pray to God that he give me another chance. Trying to make it to heaven, I got one hell of a plan. Dancing with the devil makes me a hell of a man. Yeah, I'm trying to be a better man, but my nigga down south won't put me up 200 amps. He told me if I needed to put that shit in my hands, is that a curse or a blessing, or do I see at the end?
We learned that 120 of them were from the state of Georgia, the state that my own grandfather was a slave in. Why, to me, it couldn't have been anything but an act of God, a blessing from God, and I frankly and sincerely pray for a similar blessing from him.
Levels to this, and I said it like I said it cause I wanted to hit. I give credit where it's relevant, we better than them.
Yeah, what's good, what's good? We back. Shalom. What's cracking? I know you see the title, right? So yeah, you know, we back on it. On the road to Armageddon, destination, Valley of Decisions, right? So yeah, we're gonna get into it, right? You know, looking at, you know, certain things that's going on around the world and all that stuff, you know. But of course, giving all praises before we start, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. Just a real quick. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, shit like this. So, yeah, you know, so yeah, we're gonna get into it though. All praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, right? So yeah, I'm gonna start with a couple little inserts from a couple of articles and real quick, see what's going on around the world with these crazy people who's up to, right? And you know, and how these things is kind of, you know, heading towards, you know, something bigger, you know, down the line, you know. So it says, this is from ABC News. It says, Trump planned strike against Iran after country's request halt, citing progress towards a deal. You know, so they're still looking, trying to make a deal, right? And that's been going on forever. And it says, deal parameters include opening Hormuz Strait and ending Iran's nuclear threat, though details remain unclear. Iran and Middle Eastern countries asked Trump to hold off attacks while negotiating continue. Israel is participating in the commitment to pause strikes during deal negotiations. Trump has previously threatened Iran escalation, then reverse course for diplomatic talks. Right? So you know supposedly negotiating. We'll see how far that goes. We already know they ain't gonna go nowhere. It says Republican lawmakers suggest Trump declare victory in Iran war despite unresolved nuclear program objective. Because he, keep changing the goalposts, keep moving the goalposts on the objective. It's supposed to topple their government, get a regime change, and stop their nuclear program. But now the objective is we're gonna open up the strait, like we said in the beginning. That was the plan all along, right? When that wasn't never the problem until you guys start bombing everybody, right? And it says Trump had made 4 previous victory declarations declarations. Fighting resumed after each within days or weeks. So, every time they make these ceasefire things, they end up fighting again soon after, right? It says administration repeatedly shift victory metrics and goalposts to claim tactic success. Because that's what they got to do, because, they keep failing at their main objective, and they just look at their little side accomplishments and be like, oh, see? And they hold those up, as trophies, like, yeah, we did this, though, right? And act like that was the main thing, right? It says, current proposal differs from genuine peacemaking. It's rebranding rather than achieving original objectives. Federal courts found Iran liable for providing weapons, training, and support, enabling proxy forces to kill Americans in Iraq. So, they trying to blame the Iran people for, having proxy wars against America in Iraq. But America been doing that for ages. That's their strategy, That's now they don't have to, send in their military per se to occupy nations. Now they just create chaos and fund a little small militia in those countries and do it that way. So, and create proxy wars, right? So they've been doing that. That's their, a play out of their playbook. That's like what they say, that the pot calling the kettle black. It says Iranian supply says Iranian supplies explosively form Predator, what is that? Predator tractors killed Staff Sergeant Brooks, Captain English in Maja, Woodford between 2005 and 2008. So, I guess, supposedly they had some type of, things, and they killed one of their little staff sergeants. It says, Sergeant Burnett survived catastrophic injuries, dying. Now, this is crazy. Like, when I first read this, I had to look at the full article. Because it just sounds crazy just to read it. Because, this is like the highlight, the highlights of the article. But it says Sergeant Burnett survived catastrophic injuries, dying 3 times in the Iranian EFP attack, destroyed his vehicle. I'm like, dang, what the heck the Iranians hit him with that killed him 3 times? I'm like, dang. But then I looked up the full article. He, ended up passing like 3 times during surgery. But, of course he pulled through. And it says, families urge Iran war against, So family argue Iran's war against Americans began decades before the current conflict, describing it as a contentious. Right, so, they're saying they always been, fighting. They always been, which is true, they always been somewhat going at each other. They always been enemies of each other. It says survivors and Gold Star families say the successive administration failed to provide meaningful accountability for Iran attacks, right? So so they don't feel like they're getting fairly compensated, by the government, for their duty to their country, right? It says federal courts found Iran liable for providing weapons training support. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, read that. Boom. It says, here in the States, it says ICE detained over 46,000 people in July, setting a monthly record for Trump's second administration. New DHS Secretary Mullen shifts strategy to quieter enforcement operations at airports and traffic stops. So they, I guess, being, going underground with it. They no longer operating like the Gestapo, just out here in the open, just slamming people. Now they're trying to be a little more, quieter, as it says. It says, shift strategy to quieter enforcement operations at airports and traffic stops. So, I guess they're going to, kind of not make that such a priority. It says, two immigrants killed during ICE traffic stop sparks controversy. Trump overturned brief pause on vehicle stops. Administration terminated temporary protective status for 300 plus Haitians, spanning deportation eligibility population. Right, so they slowly repealing these civil rights and amendment laws and stuff, right? And a lot of people thought it was cool, that we're going after the Mexicans, right? And not knowing that as they keep on repealing these different laws, you better believe you is next, right? And it says, ICE currently holds 68,000 detainees, approaching January record high of 70,000, right? And that's crazy, right? They just, capturing our people at the border, right? Let's get this real quick. It's Isaiah 42 and 22, right? It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. Because that's what the real Israelite people are. We are robbed and spoiled. They have, oppressed us, stolen from us in various different ways, whether physically, spiritually, mentally, right? It says robbed and spoiled. It says they are all snared in holes. Meaning, we out here for a prey, for a trap. They set up these laws in their legislation to, further imprison us. That's why their prison systems is, built off of us, because they create these different laws. They have their 13th Amendment that, will make you a slave again if you create a, if you commit a crime. And it says all of them are snare and holes. They are hid in prison houses. Because what we just read, like, number one, they got the record for his second, for this month, for the month of the most, deportations. And then they got what it says, 70,000, over 70,000, detainees, and that's a record high, So, and what this verse says, it says, they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivered. And there are Hispanic brothers and sisters down there, are Caribbean brothers and sisters down there in these detention things, right? and none deliver. Nobody has come to freedom and, you know, get them out of there or whatever, right? Right? And the only reason why they come in here because this place destroyed their homeland. If this place never destroyed their homeland, they'll be home, living, chilling, everything would be cool, right? So it says, but this people is robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none deliver. For a spoil, and none say restore. So nobody try to help us. Nobody try to fix our situation because for them it is profitable, right? You know, this place have, you know, something where they get paid. You know, they got prison for profit, right? That's crazy, right? They get paid for locking people up. They are incentivized to lock you up, right? So just get into it though, right? Because the Most High God is not cool with this place, right? Let's get that 2 Esdras 6 and 18 real fast. And it says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh. Right? And that's what's happened. The Most High is sending His Son back with the millions. Right? And it says, take this out. I'm going to move this charger real quick. Throw that right there. Hold that. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them. So, you know, coming to see what's going on the planet, and you ain't gonna like it, right? How is people being treated? And it says, and how this planet is being ran. And it says, and what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, right? So, meaning like these people overdid, you know, as the Most High God did punish us, you know, by allowing these other nations to rule over us and scatter us to these various lands. But these people overdid it, you know what I'm saying? They saw that the Most High God was, you know, kind of, you know, lifted his veil of protection, and they went super in, right? And we know the history of this place, what they did to us, the atrocities that still currently happen today, right? And what it say? It says, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, right? And that's what these people do. They hurt us unjustly with their unrighteousness. You know, unarmed. What was it? The statistic I haven't checked, you know, in a while. But last time I checked, every 28 hours, a unarmed black person get, you know, unalived by the police, right? Because it says that they be that hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, right? So then all those lynchings that went on in the early 1900s and apparently popping back up now here in the 2000s, right? So although they truly haven't really disappeared, but now they're just popping, you know. So it says, with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. So, you know, after, you know, God was done punishing us, you know, after that 400 years, you know, they put Jim Crow laws on us. They put redlining on us. They oppressed us in various ways. They put, you know, Gestapo-style, like, police, military-style type police in our neighborhoods, right? They built projects and ghettos for us, right? And it says, and then when the world that shall begin, says, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away, you know, and the world is talking about this society, this, you know, current system that we living in, how this world is being ran, right? When this way of life, when this society, this civilization crashes, it says, and when the world that shall begin to, when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens, the book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. Right? So then, as this world is, you know, coming to a climax and getting destroyed, and the Most High come back to judge, right? The books will be open. He's going to judge this place for everything, right? Let's get 2nd Esdras 9:1. And it says this. And he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And that's what we have to do. We have to measure these times diligently in itself. As we watching world news, you know, we're seeing what's going on. We matching it up with prophecy and all that stuff, right? And so we're measuring the time diligently, right? It says, measure the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the sign pass, which I have told thee before. So as we measuring times and watching, you know, being, you know, good watchmen and watching, right? And we see certain prophecies happen, we see certain things take place, right? Then we can match it up. Okay, yeah, the Most High God said this was going to happen before, you know, and we see it happening, right? So we know where we're at in this time frame. And it says, when thou seest part of the sign pass, which I have told thee before, then thou understand that it is the very same time. So as we watching these prophecies take place and things happen globally, we will know that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Right? That's the state that we're in right now, that the Most High is beginning to come and visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people, and that's what we're seeing, earthquakes and uproars of the people. Japan just got caught at earthquake, right? We're seeing uproars of the people. We're seeing civil unrest. We're seeing people storming into their Capitol buildings and taking out their government officials, right? We're seeing protests in major countries around the world, right? We're seeing these things. It says, therefore, when thou shalt be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou will understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, right? Because this guy is so cold with it. The Most High God is so cold with it. He called the end from the beginning, right? You know, that's just like you go to a basketball game, and then the person you with, they tell you the score, you know, at the final, you know what the score gonna be at the final, you know, buzzer. And y'all just walk into the game, you know, the game haven't even started yet, right? So the Most High God told us the ending from the beginning, right? And it says, for like that all is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifested, right? And the end is manifested, right? We're seeing this stuff happen because the Most High God told us how it was going to go down, and we can see it, right? Let's get this real quick, right? And because, you know, stuff is happening, you know, and the Bible says, although it may tarry, meaning although it may seem like it's taking a long time, because some people be like, man, Jesus lived 2,000 years ago. You know, why you ain't back yet? It says, although it may tarry, wait for it, right? That's what it say. He come like a thief in the night, right? And, you know, and we're going to be, you know, a lot of hell going on. A lot of stuff going to happen in between time. But we got to keep the faith and make sure that we don't lose sight of what's going on. Because it's easy to get distracted and so forth. and not, you know, understand what's going on. Hold up. Let's get it over here. So yeah, we gotta understand, you know, we can't get weak in this thing, you know, because again, we're gonna see some stuff that's gonna, you know, people gonna be turning up in that day, if you understand. And you can't get weak when you see certain things and, you know, and fall off the faith because certain things happen, or you can't get weak because your life is, you know, it's not going as you plan, and then you fall out of the faith, right? You know, so understanding that these things is gonna happen, that the Most High is coming to visit this place, right? All hell is breaking loose. Things is gonna ramp up, right? This is only just the beginning. They tell us this, right? Let's start at this is Luke 18. And let's start at 7. And it says, and shall not Yahweh avenge his own elect. So although this, you know, hell is breaking loose on earth, right? And, you know, these people, you know, going to be after the Lord's people, trying to harm us in various ways, right? And we got to understand that it says this, and shall not Yahweh avenge his own elect, right? Because he's our God, right? We got to keep that in our forefronts of our eyes, right in the middle of our head, which is our brain, our mind. Understand that he's our God, right? And it says, shall not Yahweh avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear along with them. You know, so God feels our pain. He suffers with us. He hurts when we hurt, right? And just like a good parent, you know, it's, you know, you might, you know, you put your kid out there, you let them, you give them that tough love, right? Then, you know, you always there, right there when you know they can't take it. You know, you there to relieve them, to give them that, you know, that help that they desperately need, right? It says, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear with them along with them, right? And so, you know, it's like he's with us, right? And it says, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. So he will protect his people. He will, you know, get in and what, you know, as he's seeing his people in a defeated state. Like, you know, like Apollo Creed, right? Remember Rocky, Apollo Creed, that his manager, stop the fight, right? And Apollo's like, nah, right? But the Most High God is like, you know, he's the protector. You know, he's coming in when he see that we getting ready to throw the towel in, right? He come in and is like, no, I give you that extra boost, that extra strength to go through it, right? Then it says, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily, right? So we have to understand, although we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff take place in the near future, right? If we live long enough. But you have to understand, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man come, shall he find faith on the earth? And that's the most important thing. You know, we have to remain faithful and keep the faith, although we're going to be seeing some crazy stuff, although we may be going through some stuff in our own personal life, although it might be the fall of society, although things are, you know, it's going awry around you. But you got to keep the faith, because again, he's coming like a thief in the night. And it says, nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth, right? So you don't want to be caught faithless because you done gave up, because whatever ills in your life, you know, you're seeing certain things happen and just make you just lose hope. So don't be that person, right? It says, nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on earth. So you want to be that faithful, right? Because we got to understand it get crazy, right? Let's get this real quick. Let's go to Revelation 16. Right? Let's get this. This is Revelation 16. So this dealing with the hold on, let's get this real quick. the plagues. Let's get this really quick. Give us 1 second. Let's get let's get Ezra 15 and 5 real quick. It says this. It says, "Behold, said Yahweh, I will bring plagues upon the world with the sword, famine, death, and destruction." Right? So these plagues that the Most High God is bringing towards this world, it said the sword, talking about war, right? You know, and we see that's going on, famine, because we see a famine coming. You know, certain countries is already going through it, you know, dealing with this oil crisis and stuff like that, and, you know, energy crisis, right? And it says death and destruction, because that's gonna bring on death and destruction, because again, if war, famine, people hungry, so people gonna start robbing and breaking into people's houses, taking what they need, right? For the wicked have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled, right? Let's get 15 and 11. 2 Ezra 15 and 11. "I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues, as before, and destroy all the land thereof." Right? And this Egypt is talking about is America, because in Revelation 11 it tells us that America is spiritually Egypt, right? And it says, "I will smite Egypt with plagues as before, and they will destroy all of the land thereof." Right? Let's get this too real quick. Second Ezra 15. Let's keep reading, matter of fact. Let's start at 15 and 21. It says, "Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, I will do also in recompense in their bosom, said Yahweh God." Right? So God said, like they did to my chosen, I'm going to pay them back. The same way they did my people, I'm going to do it to them. "My right hand shall not spare the sinner, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth." And that's what all these people have done, shed innocent blood upon the earth. Right? "The fire is gone forth from his wrath, and hath consumed the foundations of the earth, and the sinners like the straw that is kindled." Right? So these wicked people is just don't even know, they just the walking dead, literally, because the Most High God got all of their number. Right? And it says, "Like a straw is kindled." Right? And it says, "Woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, said Yahweh. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power, defile not my sanctuary." Right? It says, "For the Lord have, for Yahweh know all them that sin against him, and therefore deliver he them unto death and destruction." So God knows all these wicked people ways. They're not getting away with nothing, right? And it says, "And now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For God shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him." Right? And because these plagues have come upon the earth, and it will not be rescinding at all. So let's get into it though. So now, Revelation 16 is dealing with the plagues, right? That's going to, eventually take this place down, right? Let's start with 16. Revelation 16. It says, "And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, Go your way and pour out the vials of wrath of Yahweh upon the earth. And the first went out and poured his vial upon the earth, and there fell a gruesome sore upon men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image." Right? So, people that get suckered into accepting the mark of the beast, right? It's going to come upon a time that they're going to begin to break out into gruesome sores and tumorous boils and stuff like that all over their bodies. And we had spoke about this before when we had went into the lesson of the mark of the beast. We broke it down. We was talking about how when they were testing some of these RFID chips, these little Neuralink thingies or whatever, like some of the test subjects were getting these exact symptoms that Revelation speaks of, right? And and just so happened, America's Dr. Fauci didn't want to answer any questions on, on that stuff, with the little, people know about the little antibiotics, not the antibiotics, the nanotech that was, inside of the, the vaccine stuff, and, basically little mini microscopic robots and stuff, to reconstruct DNA, so, he didn't answer none of that stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying that me personally believe that the shot have anything to do with, the mark of the beast, but I do say it was a good way of testing, right? It was a good way of testing how many people will, be with it. Moving on. It says, "And the first went out and poured out his vial on the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them that worship his image." Right? So let's get Revelation 14:8 real quick. And it says this. And there followed another angel saying, "Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she had made all nations drink of wine and wrath of her fornication." So these people who are very influential on their way, and by, making the nations of the world follow and suit and make them do what they want them to do, we see this two-headed dragon, I like to call it nowadays, the Israelis and the Americans, they done teamed up together, right? I think they done, militarily, they done, bonded and got some type of little deal that they got going on, that Israel is trying to restructure for another 20 years where they can have, get deeper and further control of the U.S. military, right? But it says, "She had made all nations drink the wine of the wrath of her fornication." Right? That's the power of this nation. They make all these other countries bow down to them. If they don't, they put sanctions on you, they go to war with you. And it says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image." And sadly, a lot of our people is going to take the mark because they're going to, want their career. They're going to want to try to, I just bought a house, I got this to do, I got this, I got that, right? So they're going to compromise for their comfort of their life, for their soul. Because it says, "If any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or his hand," right? So real quick, let's run it down. Any man worship the beast in his image. So the beast is this current NATO system, this Western power structure, this white society, okay, this Western world. Then it says his image is white supremacy. That's what he pushes all over the world. Globally, that is his religion, white supremacy. That is his doctrine, that is his politics, white supremacy. That is what every nation that is under the Western power structure practice. Even if they're dark like me, they practice white supremacy. And you don't have to be a actual white person to practice white supremacy. You can just be an active person that is doing what you need to do to preserve the structure of white dominance and white supremacy. As long as you're doing those things, you are an active member of white supremacy, right? That's why a lot of these different other countries, like a lot of those GCC countries down there, although they're Arab countries, but because they're in bed with the Western world, they are practicing white supremacy, right? And Iran is like, I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of white supremacists, right? So that is the image. Now, of course, in some of our finite brains, we think of white supremacy, the little skinhead people, and they got a flag and they screaming the N-word all day long. No, white supremacy is just preservation of the white nation and just being an advocate and an aid to help prop that system up, right? So that's the image, right? And then his mark is, again, we understand their currency and how they're, you know, how it's going to be structured. Because just read it real quick. Let's jump to 13 real quick. Let's start at 14. Let's start at Revelation 13 and 13. It says, He doeth great wonders, so that he make fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So this is talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when they, in World War II, when they dropped the atom bomb, the H bomb on those two cities, right? They called fire down from heaven. That was something that never ever been seen before and never been done before and haven't been done since, right? Even though a few countries got their own, you know, nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, but they were the first and the only to ever drop fire from heaven, right? And if you understand what a nuclear bomb is, it is basically, you see that big old yellow thing in the sky that's real hot? I think they call it the sun. It's basically the power of the sun, right, being dropped on the area, right? So they call fire from heaven in the sight of men, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by those means, or those miracles, because at that time they was the only one that had that technology. So it wasn't until they started sharing it with their allies and stuff that these other nations got it. Then other nations had spies and they broke in and stole some stuff. But so people was like, wow, we can't mess with these people. So then what happened? They formed United Nations. Well, before they formed United Nations, it was something before they had United Nations. It was they called it something else, but they ended up turning it to United Nations. So they formed the United Nations. Then from the United Nations, they kind of got their little thing where they start calling themselves NATO and the EU, right? So they became that beast, right? And so it says, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying unto them that dwell in the earth, that they shall make an image unto the beast, which was them forming the EU and NATO and all that, right? And it says the image of the beast, which was wounded and did live, right? It says, and he had power given unto give life unto the image of the beast. So then, so they put their power behind it, they put their military behind it, they put their politics, their propaganda thing, right? And they made this thing alive. They made people believe in the system of white supremacy. They made people believe in the Western way of life. That's why all these countries want to come over to the west and live like Westerners, right? It says, and have power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So, and there's so much history in this verse. So it's going to the Renaissance. When they start to go around conquering with their Christianity, because that's another form of their white supremacy, because that's their tool that they use to push their white supremacy, their Christianity, and their democracy. And so what it says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that which as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So if you're not down with the program, they will unalive you. That's why they over there fighting with the Iranians. They over there got tension with China, and so forth, right? They took out Gaddafi. They went into, Iraq earlier, in the earlier 2000s, right? Afghanistan, all these different countries, right? And, so then they try to push their way of life on you, even on us. When they came through with the white, Jesus Christos Blanco, right? They came through with that, pushing that, their religion on us, right? And if we didn't bow down to that Caesar Borgia picture, who they depict as Christ, then we were unalive. We were in various horrible ways, right? It was getting down like that, right? And it says, and he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads, right? So, now this mark that people is desperately is taken, right? And we got to understand it's not going to be something forced on you, right? They're not going to be like, hey, we passing off the mark of the beast, right? It's going to be something very subtle, something that's going to sound so convenient, so revolutionary that, like, I got to get one. Why not? It's so helpful, right? Why not integrate ourselves with machines? Why not, be transhuman and walk around like old boy from Justice League? Why not? And it says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So again, now it's getting into the currency, because if you're not down with the system, because it's going to be a reset. The fall of the American dollar is happening, as we speak. They're coming up, with new ways to implement this new currency that they're going to eventually, try to put everybody under, right? And then because people don't want to be cut out of the society, because they just love their life more than they love the Most High God, they're going to get these marks, right? They're going to get this mark of the beast that our dear brother John is speaking about, right? Let no man might buy or sell, because people are like, man, I need to buy and sell, right? What we going to do? A lot of people went and got that vaccine shot because they thought they wasn't going to be able to buy or sell, just only for if you had to just wait it out, so that mandate became obsolete. They stopped tripping over the vaccine after a while, right? That's why I said I felt like it was just a test run to see how many people they can get to follow command. And it says that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? And so that's what's going on over here, right? So back over here, and it says, and the first went and poured out the vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon men which had the mark of the beast. So those people that's going to get subjugated and not subjugated, but like this, weak and weak-minded and, and manipulated, that's the word I was looking for, manipulated into taking it. It says, And there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. And the second angel poured out a vial on the sea, and it became as blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. So then the water becomes undrinkable, right? So not only the people that took the mark of the beast, they're going to be going through painful, gruesome sores and tumor-like, cancer-like boils on their body. Then the water becomes undrinkable, right? 2 Ezra 15:6 says, "For the wicked have exceedingly polluted the whole earth," right? That's how the water becomes polluted, right? I was looking up something because I stay by a river. And so I was thinking, I'm like, because, I understand that the water is going to be undrinkable. But I'm like, well, I live by a river. And I know when I was growing up in school, when it was teaching us geography and stuff like that, I'm like, I remember they saying that running water is fresh water. You can drink running water, and river is running water. So I'm like, okay, let me see, can I drink my water? And so long story short, no, I can't drink the water out this supposedly fresh water river that I live by because of the chemicals of the factories and and pathogens and other stuff that got into the water. So even if I boil it, there's still chemicals and metals in it that I won't be able to get out, So that's jacked up, right? So here I'm thinking, I might be a little better off because at least I'm right by a river. But then I looked up, I'm like, nah, I can't even drink that water out the river. That's crazy. And real quick, too, people be fishing out of that river, right? They be eating whatever they be catching out of there. It's crazy, right? To think about it. They probably got all types of stuff going on in them, right? But anywho, it says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth." And that's what happened. They polluted the whole earth. The water is bad. The air quality is bad. Animals is getting extinct, right? A lot of pollution. Soil is bad. Certain parts of the world you can't live at because they done made it so radioactive that you can't even live there because they done tested nuclear weapons over there, right? They done displaced nations of people because of their testing of nuclear weapons. It says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth. Their hurtful works are fulfilled." It says, "Therefore said Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness." So God said, you know what? I'm done playing with these people. I'm no longer gonna hold my tongue no more. I'm gonna get with these guys. Touching their wickedness, which they profanely committed, neither would I suffer them in those things which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood cry unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. So God's like, look, I'm getting tired of you unaliving these innocent people, and they're crying out to me for justice, day in and day out, right? And I gotta listen to their moans and cries of the wicked and the evil stuff that you have done, right? I'm tired of it. I'm coming to, judge this place and judge you people for everything that y'all have done, right? And it says, "Therefore said Yahweh, I will surely avenge them." So God says, I will avenge those people, all the unjustly people that they have unalive, all that 200 million, should I say, people that died in the transatlantic slave trade. The 100 million Native Americans, right, that perished, right, all that, right. And even with the Arab slave trade, millions, right? 200 million of us, right? Crazy. You're going to get with them. It says, I will hold my tongue no more touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood cried unto me, and the souls of the unjust complain continually. And therefore said Yahweh, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent from among them. Right? So God's going to protect his people from among them. Right? So back over here. So it says, and the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and the fountains of the water, and it became blood. Right? Because these people are very, they pollute the earth. And it says, and I heard an angel of the water say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which are and was and shall be, because thou hast judged us. Right? And that's what's going to be, because the Most High God is a righteous judge, and he's going to judge these people perfectly for every work that they have done. Right? Let's get Matthew 10 and 22. And it says, and ye says, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endure unto the end shall be saved. Right? So we're going to be hated, because of, these people, right? Because it says, for they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, right? And that's what these people have done in this land. It says they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, right? So that's why it says, and I heard an angel of the water say, Thou art righteous, O Lord God. Thou art, and thou was, and shall be, because thou hast judged us, right? For they have shed the blood of the saints, right? That's what they did. They shed the blood of the saints. And it says, and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, and they are worthy, right? Right, they are worthy because he had given them blood to drink, right? Because they hate not blood, right? Let's get that real quick. It says Ezekiel 35 and 6, and it says, Therefore, as I live, said Yahweh God, I will prepare thee unto blood, right? Because what it says, for they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, right? Because it says, Therefore, as I live, said Yahweh God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Says thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Right? Because these people are bloodthirsty. They don't hate blood. They love war. They'll fight over anything. They will unalive over anything. It's in their nature to do so. For they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink. That's why they're over there in the Middle East fighting. That's why they're over there in Russia fighting, right? That's why they're in these various nations fighting and preparing for war, because thou hast given them blood to drink. For they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy, right? And it says, and I heard another voice, and I heard another come out of the altar say, hold on, real quick, so like, let me say, and I heard another voice, and I heard another come out of the altar and say, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgment, right? It's because the Most High God is righteous in his judgment, right? And because you got to understand, like, these people have done hella atrocities. We can't even begin to name everything that these people have done, right? So the Most High God can't pay them enough for, pay them back enough, for what they have done. It says, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. So it's talking about solar flares and stuff, right? And all these wildfires that we're experiencing. Europe is on fire right now, right? Japan getting earthquakes and wildfires. You know what I'm saying? Places is on fire right now, right? And it's going to get worse. It says, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire, right? And then imagine the earth really get a solar flare. This is, these wildfires and so forth and stuff like that. This could be precursors to an actual solar flare. And the earth is not, prone to, the earth is not like, protected, against solar flares, because this place got a solar flare, I believe, in the 1800s. But thank God that electricity and stuff like that wasn't a thing when it happened, because, that would have knocked everybody back to the Stone Age back then, right? So, and we been living in the age of technology for centuries now, right? Going into the early 1900s, right? So a good millennium of having some type of form of technology as a society of people. So then imagine one day you wake up to being a glorified Flintstone character. No electricity, got all this fancy stuff laying around, but nothing to do with it. It's just looking like artifacts to you now. It's looking like, a life of what was, a time before a time, right? People are going to be talking about, man, I remember it used to be a little square thing that you can watch people, you can watch pictures and they move and they talk to you and voices came out of it and it was flat, you can hang it on the wall, or you can, then people used to have one on in their hand. They used to walk around, they carry it like this. You can talk to people. That's how people are going to be talking in that day, because, what it says, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire, and men were scorched with great heat, right? So now if this solar flare, I'm not going to say if, but when, ain't no damn if, but like I said, imagine that, ain't nobody prepared for that, to live off, the land, nobody is, adapted to, go and, try to collect rainwater, because they, it's crazy that day. That's why we need the Most High God. And it says, and men were scorched with great heat. So the heat waves, not only this, EMP strikes, heat waves and stuff like that going down. And blaspheme the name of God. And so even with all this going on, right, fall of humanity, people are still going to blaspheme God. They're still not going to give Most High God his credit, right? They're not going to, put respect on the Most High God's name. They're still going to try to keep playing with him, right? And try to, the scientists probably going to come out and contribute to something else. Like, well, the sun has their cycles, and the sun does this, and the sun does that, and then blah, 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 right? They're going to try to come up with something and discredit the Most High God. That's why we're talking about it now. So when it happened, we know that God said it was going to happen. It says, and men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of Yahweh, which had power over these things, over these plagues, right? So God had power over these plagues. That's why we read those verses earlier about plagues are being sent to the earth, right? And so understanding that, it says this. It says, and men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of Yahweh, which had power over these plagues, right? So, and that's what's crazy, because, like, take me back several years ago when that COVID stuff happened and everybody was flipping out, you know, and not that I was dealing with the church during that time, because I was way far removed from church, you know, in 2020. I was, you know, been a practicing Israelite, but I was just sitting back watching and observing. And although I don't follow but that stuff, but I was disappointed in the religion of Christianity, because it's like they forgot, you know, that this part right here, it says, and blaspheme the name of God, which had power over these plagues. So when everybody was tripping out about the COVID stuff, right? Not to say that it wasn't a deadly thing, people wasn't getting unalive from it, but the fear that came with it, people that profess to be church-going people, the fear that the pastors put up when they closed their church doors, and not understanding that God is the one that sent these plagues. So if he sent these plagues, you might want to figure out what he wants you to do so you don't get caught up in it. Right? That'll be the logical thing. But now people got scared, you know. That's what made me even more glad to not be a Christian, because they would let you down every time, you know, because that's when I realized a lot of people believe in God because, you know, it's just a thing for them. It's like a hobby, you know, it's like a, you know, it just sounds like the thing to say, you know. And I realized during that time, people really don't believe in God. They believe in themselves, right? And it was very disappointing to see it in action. It says, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and the kingdom was full with darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. So again, so now the kingdom is filled with darkness, right? Because these, you know, there's no, you know, there's no light, right? Because of these EMP things, right? That knocked out all electricity, right? And on the flip side, the kingdom is filled with darkness because of the wickedness, right? People is at each other's throat. No wisdom is in the land, right? People are going for what they know. Let's get a 2nd Ezra 9 and 12 real quick. And it say, so it says 9 and 12, it says, let's start at 11. It says, and they that have loathed my law, while they yet had liberty, and when as yet a place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. So that's a lot of our people, man. A lot of our people, we try to tell them, hey, you got to keep the commandments, come back to the faith. We are the Israelites, right? And they hate the law. And Christianity have taught our people to hate the law, because Christianity tells us you don't have to keep the law of God. You can do whatever you want to do. Just come as you are. Everything is cool, right? But the Bible tells us this. It says, and they that loathe my law, meaning to hate it, while yet they had liberty, meaning you had the liberty to learn, right? You see the prophets of the Lord teaching. You see God's people out here waking up and coming back into the truth. Instead of, you know, getting on that same path and understanding, you know, come back to your culture. You know, what it say? It says, and they had yet liberty, and when yet place of repentance was open to them, they understood not. They understood not, because, like, I'm not no damn Israelite, you know? What you mean I can't eat pork? You know? What you mean I can't eat shrimp? What you mean? So these people is willing to give up their soul, their salvation for that bacon, right? For that little BLT, for that shrimp scampi, for that, nasty ass lobster tail. Right? That's what they on, right? When you tell them we can't have that, right? When we say we got to keep the laws of God, right? When we say, we can't celebrate Christmas, right? Well, it's for the kids. I don't really celebrate it, but the kids celebrate it. But then you're teaching the kids to celebrate it. Then what they going to do? They're going to teach their kids to celebrate it. How are they going to break the cycle? If you know it's wrong, the kids only know what you tell them, right? And if you expose it to them, then how are they going to not know what is right and what is wrong? But you yourself know that is wrong. But you say, well, it's okay for the kids. You are over those kids. You are responsible for those kids. And you must teach them what the Most High God wants us to teach our kids. And that is to follow Him and keep His laws. Right? But it says, and they that loathed my laws while they had liberty, and when as that place of repentance was open to them, understood not. So they understand not, because they think pastor, like Malcolm X said. I was watching Malcolm X a few weeks ago. He was standing outside of a church, see, now you done listening to, now you done listening to that. Now you came outside, and what do you got? Now you're back to the same hell that you was into. Now you got to come and see me, right? Now come on, right? And that's the thing, right? You've been sitting in church all day today. Sitting in church, listening to Pastor Chuck and Jive and Live, dancing, hammer, hammer, I am, hammer, hammer, I am, hammer, hammer, right? Just dancing, right? And everybody just getting excited, can't touch this, right? And spinning around and dancing, oh. Hey, I don't know why I'm messing with Hammer. I don't know why I'm using Hammer as the soundtrack to this joke, but I love Hammer. No disrespect to Hammer. But that's what the pastors be doing, right? Hammer, hammer, I am, right? Just be dancing. And everybody getting excited. And they pay our money, right? Because it says, they that loathe my law while they had yet liberty, and when as yet repentance was open to them, they understood not, but despise it. Because they don't want to change their life. They don't want to be better. Be better. What you mean better myself? Huh? What you talking about? Right? Pastor told me I can come as I am. I don't have to do better. What do I need to do better for? If there's a religion telling me I can just come as I am. I ain't got to do a goddamn thing but just be the wicked myself. Right? So they hate the law of the Most High God, and they despise it. And it says, and therefore be thou not curious on how the ungodly shall be punished. So because these people are ungodly, and like Christ said, let the dead bury the dead, right? We don't worry about those that's, stuck in their ways, that's, still, a slave on a plantation, don't even know it. Because it says, and therefore be thou not curious. And we don't worry, we don't concern ourselves with those that are the dead sheep. We only concern about the lost sheep, right? Because it tells us, therefore be thou not curious how the ungodly should be punished, right? So we don't think about it, right? We just make sure that we doing right, that our salvation is good, right? We don't worry about, well, I wonder what's going on, and how, nope, don't worry about it, right? Because it tells us right here, and they that had loathed my law, meaning they hated the law. They had chances to learn, but they hate what God had to say. While they had that liberty, they had the chance to learn. They see their brothers on the corner teaching. They be like, oh, those crazy ass Israelites. You can go on YouTube or internet and see the brothers teaching. Like, oh, I'm not watching that. You know? But they loathe my law while they yet had liberty. And when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not but despise it. Right? They despise it. So what happened to them? It says the same must know it after death by pain. So they're gonna have to know that they jacked up through their life being taken in that day. Right? Through them having false hope in their false religion that they've been following, just to understand that life will have to be taken in that day to understand their error, right? So there's no hope for those type of people. Those people is going to be into what they're into to the day that they die. How do we know that? Because it just told us. And therefore be thou not curious on how the ungodly shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved. That's the thing that we need to do, right? Because the same must know it after death by pain, right? So they're going to know that they erred in their life, when they get that judgment, right? So then what it tells us, therefore be thou not curious of how the ungodly shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous should be saved. That's what we need to be understanding. We're reading this stuff, but how could we be saved when a solar flare happens? How could we be saved when the water really becomes undrinkable, and famine and food and stuff like that, and we're going to have to make a decision on should we take this mark or not, right? That's what we need to worry about. But we have to read these prophecies to understand where we're at in this timeline. But therefore be thou not curious on how the ungodly shall be punished, and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, and those and whose the world is, and for whom the world is created, right? And that's what the world is created for, the righteous. It says how the righteous shall be saved, who the world is, and for whom the world is created, right? 2nd Ezra 6 and 58, I believe, will tell you all about it, right? Let's get it real quick since I'm right close to it. And it says, uh, 55. It says 2nd Ezra 6 and 55. All this have I spoken. All this have I spoken before thee, O Yahweh, because thou hast made the world for our sake. Right? So yeah, I wasn't just saying stuff. The Bible says that he had made this world for us. Right? So back over here. And it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river of Euphrates, and the waters thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east may be prepared. Right? So, so the water, you look at the Euphrates, it is drying up currently, and, that's going to be a pathway for those nations of the east to bring their military down into the valley for that great battle that they eventually all going to be a part of, right? So the waters is just drying up, just like John told us, right? Then it says, and I saw unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, right? And it says, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, right? So now that's their propaganda. They're going around spreading lies and talking about we're winning everything is good, right? They're coming out lying, talking about peace, trying to make all these deals and stuff, but it's no peace at all, right? it's like it's no de-escalation happening, right? It's no return back to, you know, normal and stuff like that. You know, it's no end, right? And that's why the Bible tells us like this. 1 Thessalonians, right? 5:2. It says, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so come as a thief in the night. So we know that the day of the Lord is coming like a thief in the night, right? We understand this, but these people don't, right? And that's why it says unclean spirits like frogs came out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, right? For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape, right? So, you know, they going around talking about peace and safety. We're making these deals. You know, Trump want to hold off on, you know, strikes and stuff like that. They want to make deals, right? But the Bible says, for when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape, right? That's what we got to understand what's going on. And it says, so we can't, you know, get caught up in the news and stuff like that and how they trying to put it out, because we know how the prophecy says. That's why every time they come out with some type of, you know, so-called ceasefire, you know, whether it's the same day or a few days, you know, end up getting broken again, and they right back at it again, and the strait is back closed again, right? And it says, for they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather. So now these four spirits, you can read about it in Zechariah and other places. Now these four spirits, we talked about it before. You know, these are four spirits that God used to govern the earth, to influence people, nations, and so forth, right? So now these spirits is working on this nation of the beast, right? This Western power, right? To influence them to go to war, to be in the state that they're in, right? And so it says, for these are the spirits of devils which work miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to do battle of that great day of Yahweh power, right? So again, so now that's going to bring all these nations down to the Middle East eventually, to the Valley of Decisions, right, where they're going to duke it out in a great battle. And it says, behold, I come as a thief. Behold, he that watches keep his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Right? So we got to stay 10 toes down. Don't get flustered. Don't, you know, lose sight of, you know, what's to come, because although it's going to be all hell breaking loose, right, we got to still keep the faith in the commandments and don't waver, right? And, you know, we can't waver doing this thing and, you know, doing this walk, because it's going to be hard. And, you know, we're going to, you know, people are going to lose things that they hold dear to them. And some people, you know, that some people are not going to be able to take that. It says, let's start at it. This is Matthew 24 and 42. It says, watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord do come, right? Because again, what it says, behold, I come as a thief, right? So and you don't know when a thief is coming. You be chilling in your house, whatever, watching TV, maybe sleep. All of a sudden you hear a glass break, You're like, what's that? You know what I'm saying? So you don't know when a thief is coming, right? So it says, watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord do come. But know this, that if a good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Right? So, excuse me. So yeah, we have to be that good man that keep an eye on a swivel and keep watching, watch these global events. Watch, stay studious in this book and look at these prophecies and see how it matched up to what we see today, right? Because it says if the good man of the house had known and what watched the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. So as long as we watching and keeping an eye out, right? We're not gonna allow our house to be broken up too, right? And then on the flip side, they say no man know the hour of the day. So now, and that's a good reason, right? Because you have some people that if they did know that, Yahweh Shai is coming back on this day, at this time, in this hour, they would plan their wickedness all the way up until that point, and then be like, you know what, okay, you get ready to come back. Let me get my life together now. I got this much X amount of time to get my stuff together. So then, instead of genuinely, getting their stuff together and keeping their eye open as a good watchman, right? So then you have some people that would just wait till the last minute. Because we do it to this day, Think back in high school, you have a assignment due, and you wait till the night before to start working on it, right? Or you wait like a few days before, and, people do that stuff, right? And the same way we do that with, our assignments in life, we'll do that with, the Most High God sign as well, right? So it says, but know this, that if the good man of the house had known and what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye also ready in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Right? So we have to always be ready, because people be like, man, that was 2,000 years ago, man. He ain't coming back, man. Y'all people still believe in that stuff, right? But you never know what time he is coming. But we can see these prophecies and see how close we are to that time, right? So then it says, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watches and keep his garments. So, blessed is he that watches and keep his garment. Meaning you stand ready. You keeping the commandments, right? You stand on fire all the way to the end. Because like we read before, he that endures unto the end shall be saved, right? It says, and blessed that keepeth his garments, right? And it says, lest he walk naked, and they shall see his shame. So then, you be exposed by the time, when Christ come back, you done slip back into the world doing what you was doing before, and now you caught ashamed because your Lord and Savior is back, and you ain't rolling with him that, when he come back, right? You're gonna be caught out here being ashamed. And it says, boom, boom, boom. And he gathered them together in a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. Right? And that's where all these nations is making their way to eventually. As time progresses and these nations getting further into cahoots with each other. Iran and Russia and China, and so forth. Ukraine and America and NATO and so forth. Right? It's all going to bring them down to the valley of decisions, right? And what it say? And it says, and it says, and the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, "It is done." Right? So, all these things that is written thereof being passed, all these prophecies coming to pass, right? With that final one being nuclear war, right? To be the be all end all, right? And it says, and there shall be voices and thunders and lightnings, and was a great earthquake. Because that's, when all these nations start pushing their little red button as well, they said, all right, that's what y'all want to do. You want to send it up? Then just send it up then, right? So they start pushing their buttons. That's going to cause seismic activity, which is earthquakes. And it was so mighty of an earthquake, so great, right? And it says, and there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, and such was not since man were upon earth, right? So this earth was gonna shake, break this mug, crack this mug like Mr. Egg, with Humpty Dumpty. That's what I meant, right? Crack this mug, right? Great earthquake, right? And it says, like it was never ever before, right? This place about to get hit with some stuff it never ever been hit before, because this place over here is, been in safety. Got blockage of the sea, right, on both sides, right? Flanked by two large countries, right? So they got some protection. But it says, but this time it says the great city was divided into 3 parts. That's how big is this earthquake gonna be. It's gonna split this nation into 3 parts. And guess what's under this nation? America has some of the world's biggest underground volcanoes, right? And that's what's going to turn this place into the lake of fire that the book of Revelation speaks of, right? And it says, and the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before Yahweh, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierce of his wrath, right? And you're gonna remember, like, yeah, I knew it, like, yeah, that's right, destroy that place, right? And then he's gonna remember all the things that this place did as he's watching this place get destroyed, right? It says every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, right? And that's what happened. Every island fell away, and the mountains were not found. And it says, and there fell upon men of great hell out of heaven every stone from the weight of a talent, and men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hell, for the plague therefore was exceedingly great, right? So they're gonna blaspheme God because the hell thereof was exceedingly great, right? And and they still not gonna repent, because it's not in them to repent, because these people are a wicked nation, right? And they will and is gonna be destroyed. Right? Let's get Revelation 18 real quick. Revelation 18 and 4. Right? Revelation 18 and 4 says, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people. Right? So as we understanding what's going to happen in this coming future, like we read in 2nd Ezra, what it tell us over here, what it say in that. Where that? What was it? What is it? So right here, what is it again? It says, and there fell upon man great hail out of heaven, and every stone out of the weight of the talent, and man blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceedingly great. Right? And it still was blaspheming God, right? And they, still didn't repent, because it tells us like this. It says, and they that had loathed my law, while yet they had liberty, and when yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. The same must know it after death by pain. So they're going to have to go through it, right? And it says, and therefore be thou not curious on how the ungodly shall be punished and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved. That's what we need to do. Inquire on how the righteous shall be saved. That's why it says over here, Revelation 18:4 says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. So that's why it tells us over here, therefore be thou not curious of how the ungodly shall be punished and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, who is the world, and whom is for whom the world is created. So that's what our focus should be on, as we reading these prophecies and seeing the atrocities that's going to take place on this earth that's coming. And it's horrible. And we don't want to get caught up in that. So we need to figure out what can we do to be saved. And that is to keep the commandments, right? Let's get this real quick. And we out here. Go to Joel 3, right? So come out of it. Don't worry about it. So real quick, it says this. It says, for lo, in those days, this is Joel 3:1. For lo, in those days, in that time when I will bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. So God is going to save his people in the various lands that we're scattered to. And I will gather all nations, that will bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. That's the valley of decisions. And I will plead with them there for my people, for my heritage, Israel. So God is going to get with these people and fight against these people for what they have done to his people, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. They parted his land, Ezekiel 36:5, right? They took his land and scattered his people, right? And it says, they cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine, right? That's how they got down. That's the slave trade. They took us and they sold us around the world. They traded us for guns, weapons, and booze, right? They did that, right? That's the history, right? Hold on, say like you. Right, that's the history, right? And it says, they have cast lots for my people, have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. That's what they did. The African nations, the Arab nations done kidnapped us and sold us to them for guns, weapons, and, other things, right? Then it says, and what have ye to do with me, Tyre and Zidon, and all of the coasts of Palestine? So God is asking these, because not just Esau that God is going to get with, it's all these nations that God is going to get with. Because you got to understand, although Esau is our chief enemy, but all these nations had a hand in destroying God's people. And they all got a judgment coming. So, and he's saying to these African and Arab nations, what he's saying to them, he said, what have ye to do with me, Tyre and Zidon, and all of the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, I will return your recompense on your head. Right? So they like, God's like, you think you can do something to me? You think you can harm me? You think you can, whatever you plan to try to do against me, I'm going to bring it and turn it back on you, right? Double time, right? And what did they do to the Lord's people? They kidnapped us and sold us around the world. So what is going to happen? It says, and I will recompense upon your own head, because ye have taken my silver and my gold. They done took our riches. They robbed us. They took all of our precious artifacts and put them in their museums and Buckingham palaces and Vaticans and Smith museums and stuff like that, right? They did these things, and it says, and have carried unto, and because ye had taken my silver and my gold, and have carried unto your temples my goodly and pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem. So who's the children of Judah? Today would be our modern Jamaicans, Haitians, and so-called African Americans, right? And so, and we know who were on the west coast of Africa, right? And what they do? It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold. So what they do, we know the history. The Arabs and the Africans, they kidnap the Lord's people, the Israelites, and what they do, it says, you have sold unto the Grecians. Who's the Greek-shins? The Greek-shins. Who are these people? Greeks, right? Who are the Greeks? The so-called Caucasian today, right? Because they wasn't calling themselves all these different names that they have now. They were, Greeks. Then they had the little different city-states and that. Then they became Romans and all this other stuff now that they call themselves to this day, right? But the Bible identifies them as the Grecians, the Greeks. And it says, because ye had taken my silver and my gold, and ye have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. That's what happened. That's the transatlantic slave trade, people. That's the Arab slave trade. And it says, that ye might far remove them far from their borders. And that's what happened. We were far removed from our borders in this transatlantic slave trade, Arab slave trade, sub-Sahara, all that. Behold, I will raise them out of the place where ye have sold them. That's what's going on now. We're getting raised up. We're becoming the nation of God's people again. We're becoming God's mighty army again, right? As we coming back to our culture, right? And it says, and I will return your recompense on your own head. So he's going to pay them back for everything they did on their own head. So how they sold us, he's going to repay them back. What did he say? He says, I will sell your sons and your daughters to the hands of the children of Judah. So just like how we were sold, they're going to be sold. That's called justice, right? Because just like it tells us over here in Isaiah 14, real quick, it say, what it say now? It says this. It says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob. This is Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them. So this is the Gentile nations. And they should cleave to the house of Jacob, meaning they're going to be in dire need of us, right? Cleave to the house of Jacob, and the people should take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them. So we're going to possess them, right? And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord, right? Because what it say over here? It says, and I will sell I will sell your sons and daughters into the hands of the children of Judah. Right? So, and what it say? And the people should take them and bring them to their place in the house of Israel, should possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids. And they should take them captive, who captives they were. Right? And what it say? It says, I will sell your sons and daughters to the children of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off. Right? Then it says, over here, it says, Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. That's what the Lord promises. That's called a reversal. That's called trading places, right? We're going to rule over our oppressors, because it just told us, I will sell your sons and daughters to the hand of the children of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord hath spoken it. That's who said this. The Lord hath spoken it, right? That's his great plan. You know, you think you can sell us, you know, around the world? They got that movie called The Woman King, right? Where they done kidnap our people and sold us to the you know, the English or whoever, right? So the Lord is going to sell their people, right? Verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare a war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up, right? That's what's happening. A lot of these nations is preparing for war. They're gearing up. Beat your plowshares into swords, your prune hooks into spears. So turn your manufacturing companies into, you know, government contracting, you know, companies that produce equipment, weapons, and accessories or whatever for the military, right? Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, gather yourselves together round about thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, right? Hold on, let's read this one more time. Beat your plowshares into swords. Hold up. Just read this one more time. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare a war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your prune hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Right? That's what's going down. In that day, the weak is going to say, I am strong. So they're going to start looking at America like America is very weak in their way. Right? NATO is very weak in their way. Right? So they like, we can take these guys, really, if you look at it. That's how they're going to start thinking. Isaiah 14:10 says this. And all they that speak and shall say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? That's how these nations are going to start looking at America. That's why a lot of these countries, like, you know what? Iran, like, you know what? I don't care. We can take America. And they handling business with drones, people, right? And all they speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? That's how they're going to start looking at America. Like, dang, we can take these people. They're not really that strong. You know, they got all those muscles, meaning big fancy military tech, but Iran is keeping them at bay with $15,000 to $50,000, between $15,000 to $50,000 drones, right? And they can't get past those drones. And I was joking last time about, I'm like, shoot, if we had knew this, like what they had back then in the 60s, right? You know, did they have remote control planes in the 60s? You know, little toy remote control planes. I don't know. If they did, let me know. But I know damn for sure they had kites. I'm just thinking, like, if black people had known back then that we can defeat this mighty government with just using drones that we could purchase off of Amazon, right? You know, like, these people is at a standstill, right? Because they can't get past their drone capacity. That's why the strait is closed, because of a bunch of drones It's not letting people get by. So imagine if we had knew that. Like, man, you know, maybe we can get some type of liberation from America. If we go to our local toy store, or, you know, go to Amazon or Temu, and just order us a bunch of drones and just start flying them around the neighborhood. I mean, because obviously it's working for the Iranians, right? Goddamn Iranians, right? It's crazy, right? But they shall speak and say unto them, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us, right? That's what it's looking like, right? That's why it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your prune hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen and gather yourselves together round about thither, because thy mighty ones come down, O Yahweh, right? So they bring in all the nations, all these nations slowly for surely is going to come to that Middle East and get it on. Let the heathen be awakened. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I set and judge all nations round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Right? The harvest is right, talking about the sins of this world. You know, all the prophecies is coming to fruition. They all coming to pass. Everything that the Most High God said was going to happen, everything that the prophets have written down in the past is coming out, right? Put in ye the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow. The wicked of their, for their wickedness is great, right? And it says, multitudes in the valley of decisions, for the day of Yahweh is near, in the valley of decisions. The day is near, definitely. That's why we're seeing all this stuff happening. Israel, you know, trying to, you know, increase their military, you know, pact with America and further embed themselves into their military institution. You know, other nations is gearing up and building, you know, up their military. You know, again, you know, the lines in the sand is being drawn and sides is being picked, you know what I'm saying? So people are deciding, because multitudes in the valley of decision. So millions of nations, of soldiers, of the armies is going to be gathered in that day to fight, right? In the day of the Lord, in the near, in the valley, it says millions. I said millions. In the millions. But it says multitudes in the valleys of decisions, for the day of the Lord is near, in the valley of decision, right? Because the day is coming near. That's what we're seeing, right? And it says, the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw its light from their shining. So, like, wisdom and knowledge is shrinking from this place, right? People is losing their minds. Everybody's going batshit crazy, right? Because the times is changing. People don't know what to do. Things is getting different. And they starting to realize, slowly but surely, things might not go back to the way it was, right? Because the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw its light, withdraw their shining, meaning the wisdom and knowledge is going to be taken from this place. People is going to be living like, you know, Mad Max, for the lack of better terms. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. The Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Right? That's what's going down, right? Let's get this real quick. We got to understand it. Let's start at Joel 2:27. And ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. Because he is the God of Israel. The Bible says the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Bible mentioned God of Israel 1,000,000 times, because ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people shall not be ashamed. My people will never be ashamed. We're not going to be ashamed. as we get this information, understand that we are the King's children, right? We are not ashamed to be the Most High, the children of the Most High God, right? And it also says, and it shall come to pass afterwards, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, right? So a lot of people say, well, yeah, this is all flesh. No, because it just told you, and ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people should never be ashamed. Next verse, and it shall come to pass afterwards, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. That's the people of Israel. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. And that's what's going on. A lot of our people is, coming into, seeing prophecies, understanding these prophecies, prophesying about things to come, right? Seeing visions of these end times, this World War III stuff happening, right? And different things coming, right? And it says, and upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days I will pour out my spirit. I will show wonders in heaven and the earth, right? And that's what we're going to start seeing. We're seeing wonders in the heavens, right? We're seeing different, how they say sunspots, talking about the sun is, having different sunspots. You got blood moons and stuff coming up, right? We have, different, moon cycles that's happening, taking place, blood moons and blue moons and, and so forth, right? Different stuff, different signs in the heavens that's taking place, right? Celestial bodies, changing their, their positioning and stuff like that. There's, things that's happening, right? Eclipses is happening, solar eclipses and full solar eclipse, lunar eclipses. All these things is taking place, showing us signs of the things to come. And it says, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke, right? So the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, right? And, again, because we got a eclipse coming up soon. Then we also have a blood moon right after that eclipse, right? So we see these things happening, right? And it says, before the great day of trouble, the day of Yahweh comes. So God is giving these signs, right? Because like it tells us in Amos 3:6 that he would not do anything unless he showed the secrets unto his prophets, right? So he's showing these different things, these different signs, right, to come. Then it says, and it shall come to pass, whosoever call on the name of Yahweh, right, shall be delivered from Mount Zion. What did it say? From Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance. For as Yahweh said, in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. So the Most High God is coming to save his people. And while all this hell is breaking loose, we better understand that the Most High God is with us and is going to preserve his people in that great day. We just have to keep the faith, in the commandments, till his son come back, right? Till the Most High send his son back. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, peace. Hopefully that's edifying. Until next time, we out, right? We out, man.